Intruder, Japan. Have you ever lived alone, lost something in your room, and blamed yourself for being forgetful? In 2008, in Hyogo Prefecture, Japan, Tatsuhiko Kuroda, a salaryman living alone, worked regular hours and mostly came home just to eat and sleep. At first, he noticed small things, snacks missing, drinks running lower than usual, and assumed he had eaten them himself and forgotten. But over time, it became harder to ignore. Rice supplies emptied faster than they should have. Groceries disappeared when he was certain he hadn't touched them. Suspicious, Kuroda installed a motion-activated camera. When he reviewed the footage, he saw an older woman calmly stepping out, opening the refrigerator, eating, and then climbing back into a hidden storage compartment above the living space. The woman was 58-year-old Mitsuyo Maeda, a homeless woman who had entered through an unlocked door and secretly lived there for nearly a year. She slept in the attic-like space, used bottles so she wouldn't need the bathroom, and stayed completely silent whenever Kuroda was home. She survived by timing his work routine and only moved when the house was empty. If this happened without Kuroda noticing, who can guarantee you are really living alone right now? The Funhouse, United States. Have you ever walked through a carnival and thought, that mannequin looks a little too real? In 1911, in Oklahoma, Elmer Mccurdy was shot and killed by a group of lawmen while trying to rob a train. No family ever came to claim his body. With nowhere to send him, an undertaker embalmed Mccurdy using arsenic-based chemicals and placed him on display, charging people a nickel to see the Oklahoma Outlaw. Later, two men claimed to be Mccurdy's siblings were in fact owner of a traveling carnival retrieved the body. Over the next 60 years, Mccurdy was bought, resold, and moved through carnivals, fairs, haunted houses, and fun houses across the country. Each time he changed hands, workers repainted him, redressed his body, and posed him to fit new themes. People were assigned to undress him, put new clothes on him, and hang him as decoration, never realizing he had once been a living person. In 1976, during the filming of a TV show, someone tried to move the mannequin. An arm snapped off, revealing human bone. By the time the truth came out, thousands of people had already touched him, laughed beside him, never realizing they had been handling a human corpse. Manila Film Center, Philippines. In 1981, construction of the Manila Film Center in Pasay City was rushed to meet the opening of an international film festival. The project was led by Betty Benitez, who had authority over the construction. At 3 a.m. on November 17, 1981, a section of scaffolding on a higher floor collapsed, dropping workers into the unfinished structure below, which was filled with wet cement. Some were killed instantly, others were still alive, trapped and calling for help. Rescue efforts were chaotic, and many workers who tried to help those who fell from the scaffolding ended up trapped and sinking into the concrete themselves. According to workers and later accounts, as many as 169 people may have died in the incident. The government officially acknowledged only around 3 deaths. Multiple accounts claim construction resumed within days. Concrete was poured to seal the structure and rushed to meet the deadline, without rescuing or recovering the body of those trapped inside. When the film festival began, attendants complained that their clothes were stained with blood and concrete. Some guests reported sudden chills and heavy pressure on their chest. None of the incidents were fatal, but the stories spread quickly. Years later, Betty Benitez died in a car crash, crushed by the impact while her driver escaped unharmed. Security guards later reported seeing dark figures moving through the building. When chased, a voice was heard close to the ear, whispering a single word: help. The Butcher, Vietnam. In early 2025, a bundle of files began circulating online, packaged and sold as a single release for $100. Those who encountered it described it as a real-life snuff film. In total, the release contained 11 video clips and 98 images. The first video was titled Rehearsal. It showed a man kneeling with his head lowered onto a wooden cutting board, while another man stood behind him wearing a mask and holding a meat cleaver, rehearsing the chopping motion. The man was later identified as Nguyen Xuan Dat. Dat was someone who hated his own existence and had long romanticized his death by beheading and being cannibalized. He eventually went online and connected with someone willing to fulfill that desire, Duan Van Sung. The next clip showed the real act. Horrific would be an understatement. It was followed by selfies of Sung holding Dat's severed head beside him. The remaining clips and photos were even more disturbing, including footage of the killer butchering the body and cooked multiple dishes using the unidentified meat and organs. What shocked many even more was Sung's background. He was a well-respected local official, serving as deputy head of market management team number 4 in Langson province. Later investigations found bone fragments in a drainage system in the office kitchen and 3 human teeth beneath a sink. Sung eventually confessed, admitting he cooked as many parts of dart as he could, fed some to stray dogs, and discarded the rest in public trash bins. Do you really believe it all ended up in the trash or somewhere else? Quey, Thailand. Quey was a Chinese immigrant who arrived in Thailand in the mid-20th century. As a frail child in China, he later claimed he was once told by a priest that consuming human organs could grant strength and power. At the time, he did not dare to do it and only consumed the organs of animals. During the war against the Japanese, Quey was conscripted as a soldier. He faced starvation on the battlefield and, according to his confession, this was the first time he consumed the organs of a fallen comrade to survive, an act he said later became habitual. After the war, he fled to Thailand and worked odd jobs across several provinces. In 1958, a young boy went missing after being sent to buy vegetables from Quey. The boy's father later discovered his son's burned body nearby and confronted Quey inside his house. Authorities found freshly removed organs and a heart hidden in a food cabinet. Under interrogation, Quey confessed to 7 murders, all involving children, along with sexual assault and cannibalism. He was found guilty and executed by firing squad in 1959. With no family to claim his body, it was mummified and displayed at Siri Raj Hospital, where it remained for decades as a display of warning and a crime frozen into legend. Every child growing up in Thailand back then was warned to come home before dark, or Quey would come for them and eat their guts. Anatoly Moskvin, Russia. We all know someone who collects strange things, old books, antiques, and weird-looking dolls. In the early 2000s in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, Anatoly Moskvin lived with his elderly parents, who believed his apartment was filled with an unusual but harmless doll collection. At times, neighbors and visitors noticed a foul, rotting smell. Moskvin dismissed it as a sewage or drainage problem in the building. Over nearly 9 years, Moskvin exhumed the bodies of 29 girls and young women, ranging in age from about 3 to 25 from local cemeteries. He brought the bodies home, reinforced and wrapped the remains, dressed them in the same clothes they were buried in, and placed them around the apartment. He sewed buttons and toy eyes into their sockets so they could watch cartoons with him. He sang to them, celebrated their birthdays, and claimed he could communicate with them. "You abandoned your daughters. I brought them home and warmed them," he quoted. In 2011, police traced reports of missing bodies back to his home. Moskvin was arrested and charged with abuse of corpses. He was later ruled mentally unfit to stand trial and sent to a psychiatric hospital where he remains. Medical College, India. In 2013, at a medical college hospital in Uttar Pradesh, India, staff and patients began noticing something wrong with the water supply. This wasn't a small clinic. It was a large hospital facility with patient wards, staff areas, bathrooms, and a canteen. The same source ran through the entire building and was used daily for bathing, washing, cleaning equipment, food preparation, and drinking. At first, complaints were minor. The water smelled strange, sometimes it looked cloudy. Maintenance blamed pipe issues and the hospital continued operating as normal. As the smell worsened, workers finally checked the rooftop tank. Inside, they found a decomposing human body submerged inside. Investigators believed it had been there for over 10 days while the hospital remained fully functional and occupied. How she ended up there was never clearly confirmed. Now, if the liquid you're bathing in ever turns murky, who really knows what's been flowing through it? Not the feet, Tibet. In April 2023, Zhang, a Chinese tourist, checked into the Guzang Shuhua Inn hotel. Shortly after settling into his room, he noticed a strange, foul smell. When he reported it to hotel staff, they assured him the odor was coming from a bakery on the ground floor. Believing the smell might also be coming from his own feet, Zhang decided to rest. He took a 3-hour nap in the room. Later that evening, after leaving for dinner and returning, the stench became unbearable. Zhang requested a room change and went to sleep again. That same night, hotel staff woke him and asked him to return to his original room. There, police informed him that they had discovered a dead body hidden under the bed he had been sleeping on. Investigators assured him that a suspect had already been arrested. The body was later identified as a woman surnamed Wang, who had been killed elsewhere and moved into the hotel room. Zhang said from that moment on, he struggles to sleep for years. Alright folks, which story chilled you to the core? Are there darker true legends where you're from? Share them in the comments, I'd like to hear them.